everyone, and welcome to another episode on Football Talk Podcast. My name is Ozzy, and I'm your host for today's show. As promised, we'll be doing a final prediction of the Premier League tonight. The transfer window is closed, so we are well aware of each squad in terms of the numbers and the players that they have, so we can analyze each team and see where their strengths and weaknesses lie. So today, we'll analyze each squad in alphabetical order. Then I'll present a predicted individual awards as well as our own custom categories, and at the end I will then reveal our predicted Premier League table. So let's begin with the first team, and that is Arsenal FC. So let's have a look at this squad. So when I was doing this research, I thought a lot of teams had more strength in depth, but for Arsenal, as an example, it's not what I expected. In terms of their defense, they've got some good numbers. So they've got Tomiyasu as a backup for Ben White. You've got Saliba and Gabriel as your first choice centre-back pairing. But then you've got Calafiori, who for me is a fantastic signing. Kiwior would be regarded as a backup for that centre-back role. But he's left-footed as well. So having two left-footed centre-backs, if they're required to play together, doesn't quite fit. So I would have probably expected Arsenal to have signed another centre-back with regards to that. And you've got Zinchenko and Timber. Timber can also play centre-back, so I guess he will be a player that will be utilised across the back four. He can also play right-back. And then even the goalkeeper, I forgot to mention, David Raya, his move was made from loan to permanent. And they've also signed Neto from Bournemouth on loan, I believe it is, with Ramsdale going out to Southampton on a permanent deal. So in terms of back four, the centre-back pairing for me would be the question mark because you've got two left-footed players there. But you can switch players around. Ben White, who started his career as a centre-back, can play this as well, of course. And you've got Timber. So it's not the worst sort of case scenario in terms of strength and depth in that defensive department. However, the midfield is quite bleak from what I can see. So you've got Partey and Jorginho as your two number six, where, let's be honest, they both don't have the best injury records in their careers, especially Partey. So that's a big gamble. I know Jorginho, he has played a lot of games over the years, but is one that has picked up injuries in the course of the season. And, as he's getting older, those injuries might be more recurring than what it has been in previous years. So to rely on those two as your DMs is a concern. But obviously, you've got Declan Rice who can play that role, and you've got Marino. And in OZZWRLD, they don't really have a direct replacement. They did have Vieira, but they're setting him out on loan. They do have a couple of young players. So they have Ethan Nwaneri, who is an attacking midfielder, only 17 years old. So you can't really throw him in the first team straight away in that manner. You've got Saladin Ulam Mahand, who is a centre mid. He's 21 years of age. So he'd probably be the closest one to rivaling or being a backup for that midfield. And you've got Lewis Skelly as well, who's a 17 years old defensive midfielder. But it looks a bit underwhelming for me in terms of not the actual players, the strength in depth. I would expect Arsenal to have more players in those roles. Just look at the next fixture, for example. Arsenal facing Tottenham this weekend. Declan Rice is suspended. And they've also got Mikel Merino, who's picked up an injury, as well as OZZWRLD, I believe. So, yeah, that's alarm bells itself there. So, yeah, slight concern that you've got three players injured. OZZWRLD was injured in international duty. Merino, I'm not sure. I think he's picked up an injury during training, possibly. I might be wrong on that one. But I know OZZWRLD is out, and I know Declan Rice has unfortunately been suspended, even though I think it was quite wrong in terms of his red card that he received last week. So, but anyways, in terms of midfield, it's not the strongest, to be fair. However, the front line, there's a lot more depth. So you've got Saka on the right, Havertz, who tends to lead the line in most games, and you've got Gabriel Martinelli. Question marks on Martinelli in terms of his end product. He's been, I would say, since his first year at the club, he's kind of digressed in terms of his development and his progress in the team. Last year, he was not clinical at all. Of course, he picked up quite a few injuries. So that's why I probably said on record that Trossard would be someone that deserves to start a lot more games, but it just signed Raheem Sterling on loan. So Raheem Sterling can easily play on the left wing as a starter, but can also be a player that can be rotated, can also play on the right wing if Saka needs a break. So they've certainly added strength in depth with the signing of Sterling. Some fans may say it's a bit of an underwhelming signing because he hasn't been the old Raheem Sterling where he was prolific in his Man City days. But he's still a good player, and obviously he'll be under Mikel Arteta, who he's coached at Man City. So there's definitely familiarity in terms of tactics and what he expects from the player. Then you got Gabriel Jesus as well to lead the line. I'm still surprised that Arsenal didn't strengthen their front line with a, a proper number 9, to be honest. But maybe the market wasn't, reflecting what they wanted in a striker, or they weren't able to afford some striker because there were a few in Europe that were available, like Osimhen, who's ended up in Galatasaray, which is absolutely crazy. And then you've got Gyökeres as well from Sporting, but his stock has risen highly due to the impact he had last season, and his transfer fees probably tripled now. So he's playing over the odds of 80 to 100 million for a striker that's just had one good season. So, but overall, it's a good squad. I thought it was stronger just because of the quality of players that they have in terms of the first 11 on the bench. But after that, I think they're struggling because even the players after these sort of 21, 22 players, they're all youngsters. The only more experienced player they have is Tierney, who can play left back and can also play centre back if required. But I've already mentioned they've got quite a few left footed defenders, so it's not a sort of necessity at this stage. So interesting to see how Arsenal have set up, but not as strong as I would have expected, to be brutally honest with you. Now, the next team, Aston Villa. Now, they obviously lost Douglas Luiz, who was a big player from last year in terms of his general play, but also he was key in terms of set pieces. He took free kicks, penalties, everything. So they brought in Onana for £50 million. Obviously, the fee sounds very high, but I believe that's the going rate in this day and age. So he's been a good addition. He's actually scored a couple of goals in his opening 2-3 games. So he's done well in terms of his impact. In terms of the squad, so Martinez will always be first choice. You've got Olsen as backup, and then in the back four, you've got Matty Cash, who I thought they would have upgraded on. There were a lot of links with several right backs in the summer, but they've decided to stick with the Polish defender there, so he remains first choice. Then they've got Bogard, who is a up and coming defender for Villa. Then in terms of your centre back pairing, you've got Pau Torres and Quansah. Diego Carlos probably would have started last season, but he's kind of gone off the rails in recent months. And then you've got Tyrone Mings. I've put him in there, but he's just returned from injury. He's had a long layoff, so he'll probably take some time to get back into his rhythm and into the squad. But for now, in terms of on paper, he will be regarded as one of the centre back options. And you've got Luka Dean, who's had a good start to the season. And then you've got Matson as well, who they've just signed from Chelsea. Obviously, he was on loan at Dortmund. So that's a very good signing, very interesting profile there. In terms of the midfield four, Leon Bailey ended up having a good season last year. His backup is Bundia, who was pretty much out last season. So, like Tyrone Mings, he will take some time to get used to playing first team football again. You've got Onana, and then you've got Kamara, who's I think he's still injured. He was out for a lot of the time last season, had a great first half of the season, but unfortunately, due to injury, wasn't able to play. So, not sure what his situation is right now, but when he's available, he's definitely a top player for Villa. You've got Tielemans and Ross Barkley, who they've signed from Luton Town. And you've got McGinn and you've got Jacob Ramsey, who's kind of become the unforgotten man, a player that was up and coming last 2-3 years, but due to injury, I think it's hampered his development. But they'll be playing Champions League football, so there'll be more games for a player like Ramsey to showcase his talent, and hopefully he can get his career back on track. And then up top, you've got Watkins and Rodgers as a combination, and then you've got John Duran, who was close to signing for West Ham, but that deal failed to materialise. And then you've got Philogen, who had a great spell at Hull City last season in the Championship. So in terms of their squad, I think their defense is fine. I'd say Bogard is a young and upper, but when you go a fullback, you do kind of expect them to be, young, where they have more energy to go up and down the flank. So it's not a bad thing, but obviously he'll lack a bit of experience. Martin's a great signing. He can actually play left wing if required. So if they feel like, the midfield forward I presented on the screen is a bit too flat and they need pace on the wings, he's definitely an option that can utilize on that left hand side. But having said that, in terms of their strength and depth, like the players outside of this 22 players that are presented, they've got two goalkeepers in Gochi and Zich, and then you've got House, who is a centre back, 29 years of age, and they've got another centre back of Dutch descent called Swinkles, who's 20 years old. So not a lot more options in terms of the squad. So if they were to pick out any few injuries here, they would be struggling, I would say, as a team. So the key to their success, like most teams, but I think for Aston Villa more so because they're in the Champions League now, is to make sure they stay injury free, and that will decide how well of a season that they can produce. So overall, I think it's a good squad. If I'm being honest, I would have expected them to have strengthened the left wing position. I was expecting them to sign a top player. I know they tried to get the likes of João Felix and some other players as well. Pedro Conchalves from Sporting, that was one that we were really trying to make the move for, but it unfortunately didn't happen. So they weren't able to get a sort of stellar signing due to having Champions League football now. But let's see what they're able to produce next, or should I say this season, current season right now. Now on to the next team, Bournemouth. So Bournemouth were able to make a late signing in terms of the goalkeeping department. They managed to sign Kepa. I believe it's a loan deal, so he will be a starter. He started the last game for Bournemouth, and you've got Travers as backup. In terms of the back four, you've got Kirkes, left back, who's had a fantastic season last year. Sensei, then you've got Hoyson as backup. You've got Zabani alongside him with Hill as a backup centre back, and then you've got new signing Arojo, and his backup would be Alan Smith on paper, but you also have the likes of Max Aarons. I probably should have placed him on the left back position as backup for Kirkes, but I don't think he's ever played left back, so I didn't want to just fit him in for the sake of it, but he would be an option for that right back position. And then you've got Cook and Alex Scott in your double pivot there, and then you've got Christie and Billing. So all players, apart from Scott's a player that came last year, but the rest have been at Bournemouth for quite a number of years, so they'll be used to playing with each other. And in terms of the advanced three there, you've got Semenyo, who's had a fantastic start to the season. Such raw pace, but his shooting is unreal. I feel like he can shoot left or right foot, so he's going to be a real asset for them this season. Kluivert has found his home playing in a more central role as a number 10. Has been utilised on the wings in his previous career at other clubs, but at Bournemouth, he's really flourishing playing that free role. And you've got Tavernier as his backup. And then you've got Sinistero, new signing from Leeds United. And you've also got Otoro in your left wing position there. And up top, as you can see, Ivan Nilsson, who they signed for £40 million as a Solanke replacement from Porto. And you've got Unai as a backup as well. So in terms of their squad, other players, so I mentioned Max Aarons. They've got a goalkeeper named Dennis. They also got Tyler Adams, who's become a forgotten man as well. They signed him from Leeds United. Fortunately, injuries have certainly hampered his number of appearances for the club. Not sure what his situation is right now, but he will still be regarded as an option when he is fit. Whether he's a star remains to be seen because his availability isn't quite there yet. So I think for Bournemouth, they're quite slim as well in terms of numbers. So they will have to utilize every player that you can see on the screen right now. On to the next team, Brentford. Now, obviously, we know the high-profile player of Ivan Toney leaving for Saudi Arabia. has got a bit of unfair criticism for making that move. People saying, "Oh, he should have stayed," or he should have tried to engineer a move to a top team in England. Maybe there was in the interest there, so you can't really engineer a move. It doesn't work like that. So um, he's earning, I don't know how much he's earning, but he's earning a big bucket of money there. So at this stage of his career, I feel like it's fully deserved. He's come through the ranks, and look, if you offer that kind of money, yeah, why not? I would take it. So yeah, so I wouldn't have any grudges on him leaving. He's been at the club for quite a number of years, and he wanted to first challenge, which is fair enough. So in terms of this squad, let's have a look with Brentford. So Flecken, Dutch goalkeeper, really impressive in terms of how he's performed. You've got Van Marsen as his backup. And then I've got Rico Henry there in left back. He's just returned from injury, but once he's fit and ready, he will be the first choice there. You've got Aya, who has been utilised as a left back recently, can play across the back four, so I'll put him in that position. In your centre back pairing there, you've got Pinnock and Ben Mee, then you've got Collins, you've got new signing Kim Ji-soo, and then you've got Rosalev, and you've got Liverpool signing in Sepp Vandenberg. He's traditionally a centre back, but can play right back if required. So a solid back line there, nothing too adventurous in terms of going up top. Obviously, you've got Henry and Roslev, who are good in terms of charging down those flanks and whipping in crosses, but it's still a very compact defense. It's not the fullbacks aren't solely attack minded. They are more utilized to be team players and make sure that the lines aren't broken in terms of playing in terms of a positional sense. So no, for me, it's a solid back line, and then the midfield is probably a good reflection of that as well. You've got Jensen, Norgard, and Janelt, who will predominantly be starters in this Brentford team, and you've got Konak, Damsgaard, who's just broken into the team, which is good to see. He's a player that I've watched last 2-3 years at the Euros and looks very impressive. Just hasn't hit the ground running, but the last couple of appearances that he's made for Brentford looks like he's finally settling. So hopefully he has a good season this year. And then we've got Yomelik as well. And up top, you've got Wissa and Bremo and Sade in the left wing there. And then you've got the Silva, Igor Thiago, who was their record signing. But unfortunately, he got injured. And so he's unavailable for the foreseeable future. And then you've got Fabio Carvalho, who they just signed from Liverpool for around 20 million. The complete deal is 28 million, but they signed him for 20 million plus 8 million on add-ons there. So big transfer fee for the young player. Hopefully he gets an opportunity to light up this team. So in terms of as a unit defensively in the midfield, they're pretty compact, pretty efficient in terms of what they need to do. But the likes of Mbeumo and Wissa, for me, and Sade as well, but Mbeumo and Wissa will be the key to Brentford's success. If these guys are misfiring or they're not available, I feel like this team will struggle. But so far, they're doing okay. So let's see how their season pans out. Now, Brighton have definitely been busy in the transfer market. They've recruited quite a few players. So let's go through their squad. So you've got Verbruggen, last year's number one goalkeeper. Remains to be number one. He was rotated quite a lot, but this year he's number one. And then you've got Steele as his backup as well. And then in terms of your back four, you've got Veltman playing in right back. You've got Lamptey as his backup. You've got Van Heck and Webster, Dunk and Eagle as your centre back options. And you've got Hinshelwood and Estupinen in your left back row. In the double pivot, I've gone for Baliba and James Milner. And then you've got Weaver and O'Reilly. So Weaver and O'Reilly probably be the ones that end up being starters. O'Reilly, unfortunately, has picked up an injury on his debut. I believe it was in the Carabao Cup. So he won't be available anytime soon. And I feel like we'll just take a bit of time to get used to the speed of the game. And once he does, he will definitely be a solid signing for this Brighton team. And then your advanced three there, you've got Mitoma and Adingra. Literally flip a coin. Who do you want to start? Because either way, it will be a long afternoon for any right back when one of these two players are on the pitch. And you've got João Pedro, you've got Ruta, who they signed from Leeds United, can play as a number 10. Is a striker as well, but I place him in this number 10 role. You've got Minte, for me, definitely player to look out for. Looks like a great talent. and you got Silly March as his backup. So like for like on that right wing, and then you've got Danny Welbeck and even Ferguson as your two strikers there. So even looking at this 22-man team right now, with obviously subs included, it looks strong. They've got a lot of quality, a lot of variation. It seems like a solid outfit. But what impresses me the most is that they've got a lot of players in the back that can come in and do a job. So you've got, I'm going to go in order into the position. So goalkeepers, they've got a goalkeeper called Cahill, who's 20 years old. They've got Modder, 25-year-old midfielder. Ayaru, who's just been signed, Swedish centre midfielder, 20 years old. He looks an interesting player. And Sisso as well, attacking player, only 20 years of age, so he's definitely one to look out for. Pupion is an attacking midfielder, 21 years of age, but is a young up-and-coming player. He's probably someone that will break into the team if required. But the two other signings they made, Kruder, the right winger from Germany, 20 years old, and they got Kadioglu as well from Turkey, left back / left midfielder, 24 years of age. So they've got strength and depth in this squad. So, a player like Kadioglu can play left mid or left back if required. You've got Enciso can play left mid or play as a number 10. Ayari can play right mid or in the centre mid. So a lot of these players are versatile. They can switch around if required. So I feel like Brighton are definitely equipped to do well this season. So definitely a team to look out for, in my opinion. Now on to the next team. Let's talk about big spenders, Chelsea. Where do I begin? Because they have a lot of players. So bear with me on this one as I analyze the squad. I can only fit so many players on the screen. But in terms of the goalkeeper, they've got Robert Sanchez and Jorgensen. I don't expect Sanchez to be number one too long. I think Jorgensen will eventually become number one. Never rated Sanchez. I think he's an average keeper at best. Very surprised that Chelsea signed him last year, but that is their choice. So he is the goalkeeper between the sticks for now. In terms of the back four, you've got Cucurella. I would have placed Chilwell, but he seems to be out of favour with the manager. So I've gone for Renato Vega, who's played at left back. And so he'll be back up to Cucurella. And you've got Colwell and Badashila, who is literally like for like. You've got Fofana, Disasi, Gusto and Reece James as your right backs there. In terms of the double pivot, you've got Fernandez and Caicedo, which, Enzo Fernandez, that is. So that is the first choice centre mid pairing. And then you've got Romeo Lavia, who's, back from injury. He's available to make some starts this season. And they've got new signing Dewsbury Hall as well. And then advanced three is interesting. You've got Pedro Neto. I'll play him on the right wing. I know since he's joined Chelsea, he's played more on the left. But I think the signing of Sancho, personally, I would play Sancho on the left and Pedro Neto on the right. I feel like that suits both players, but they can easily be switched over. So Pedro Neto on the right for now, Sancho on the left, Cole Palmer as your number 10. And you've got Mudryk, who, I'm a bit question marks in him. I don't think he's that great of a player. But will he get the time to showcase his talent? Who knows? João Felix as well signed late in the window. He'll probably be a backup, but can also occupy that left wing position. And you've got Madueke, who's had a great start so far to the season, so he'd be a good player to challenge Pedro Neto for that right wing position. And up top, you've got Nicholas Jackson and Cuckoo. So that's 22 players there, but it does not end there. They have a number of players. And I'll be honest with you guys, I don't think all of these players are registered because it can't be possible. There's a maximum number of having 25 players in your squad. So a lot of these players will be youngsters that may not be required to be registered, but I'll mention their names anyway. So in terms of goalkeepers, you've got Bettinelli, who's kind of like a Scott Carson, where he's been there for years but hardly plays. Then you got Bergstrom as well, 22 years of age. Ben Chilwell, who I mentioned earlier on, he's still there at left back. Seems to be out of favour. Tosin, the guy they signed from Fulham in the summer on a free transfer, he would be our backup for the centre back pairing. Achim Pong as well, 18 years old, right back, but he's predominantly an under 21 player for now, but it could be utilised, especially with Reece James' injury record. Then you've got Kani Chukwuemeka, 20 years old, centre midfielder. You've got Casadei, Italian midfielder, who actually played for Enzo Maresca last season at Leicester City. So an option, I would say, for that midfield. You've got Omari Kellyman, attacking midfielder, 18 years of age. David Washington, a striker, 19 years of age. Tariq George, who's a left winger, 18 years old, but I don't expect him to be first team right now. And then you've got Mark Gueye as well, signed from Barcelona this summer, 18 years of age. So yeah, a lot of young players here, but are any of these players ready to make an impact right now? Remains to be seen. But in terms of the 22 players that you can see on the screen, there's definitely quality there, but are they going to click as a unit? That's going to be the big question, I would say, this season. Now on to the next team, Crystal Palace, predominantly playing a 3-4-3 formation, so slightly different format. Now in terms of goalkeepers, you've got Henderson, and then they've signed Matt Turner in the summer. They did have Sam Johnston, but he's actually left to join Wolves, and I believe the fee was around 10 million. So that's why they've got an American goalkeeper there, which will probably please Craig Richards there on the right side. You've got Shalaba, who they signed on loan from Chelsea. Mark Gay, a lot of us would have thought he would have left Crystal Palace in the summer, but he remains in South London. They've also signed Maxence Lacroix. He is basically a replacement for Anderson. I think he's a good player, good signing. And then you've got Riyad as well, player that signed from Barcelona, left-footed defender, has been likened to Laporte. So, make that what you will. And you've got Rob Holding as a backup for that back line as well. And then you've got your fullbacks playing in more advanced roles. So you've got Manuz and Mitchell, who are transition left backs, but they'll be playing wing back / left midfield, right midfield roles. Their backups are Nathaniel Klein on the right and Schlupp on the left. And then your double pivot there, you've got Lerma and Wharton, who's highly sought after. They'll be the first choice pairing. Then you've got the return of Doucouré in first team football. And then you've also got Will Hughes. And then in the front line, you've got Eze on the left with Mateus Franco, his backup. You've got Kamada, the new signing from the summer. You've got Ismail Assar as well, the man who used to play for Watford. They actually signed him from Marseille, so he makes his return to the Premier League. And then Mateta is the first choice striker, and they've actually signed a new one in Eddie Nketiah, which is an interesting signing. They've loaned out Edouard to Leicester City. So yeah, in regards to the number of strikers, it's probably reduced, but they still have other players in the squad. So you've got quite similar to not Chelsea or such, but they don't have a lot of options with experience. There's a lot of young players. So you've got a goalkeeper, Matthews, 30 years of age, the goalkeeper, and then you've got Ward, who's been at the club forever now, predominantly as the right back. He's 34 years of age. Then you've got the likes of Rodney, Devaney, Aguionon, and then you've got Ume Chibueze as well, who's a right winger. So these guys are between 18 to 20 years of age. They all play for the under 21s. So they'll be utilized if required. But this is a squad as well where they'll need to make sure they don't have too many injuries. Otherwise, it will affect their progression in the league. Now, on to the next team, Everton. Now, let's have a look at their squad, because for me, it doesn't scream quality, but let's go through it together. So in terms of the goalkeepers, they've got Pickford, still England number one, and they've got João Virginia, and they've also got Begovic as the third choice. And in terms of your back four, you've got Ashley Young and Coleman. Then you've got Mikolenko and Patterson, who I know played left back at times last season, but he is traditionally a right back. But he'll definitely be a utility player, I think, for the Toffees this season. And you've got Michael Keane, Branthwaite, who's obviously very highly rated. I think he's not available to play right now. due to injury, but he's definitely one that I will expect to be a starter in the coming weeks. And then you've got Jacob Bryan as well, who they've signed from Lyon, the Irish defender there. Double pivot, they've got Mark Gay and they've got what's his name? I've forgotten his name now. And then you've got Ghana and Mangala as well in your backup. So the Mangala is the former Nottingham Forest player. They had him a couple of years ago. Then he went out to, I think it was Marseille, to Liga, and then he's come back to the Premier League. So he makes a return. Very sort of similar profiles to, I would say, Gay, but maybe that's what they need. They need sort of destroyers in the team. But in terms of attacking point of view, it lacks quality, if I'm being brutally honest with you guys. So Jake Harrison, yeah, good player. Predominantly left winger, but I think this team is asked to play on the right. You've got McNeil, you've got Doucouré with a more of a free role. He's not really a goal scorer, but because he's so tall and he has great ball carrying ability, he's been asked to just drive the team forward, and he can score from distance, got a good long shot on him. So that's probably why he's been appointed in that number 10 role, even though that's not really his position. And they've signed Lindstrom as well from Napoli on loan. Interesting profile. He used to play for Frankfurt, so former player for Glasner there, Oliver Glasner. But things haven't worked out for him. So for Frankfurt, he predominantly plays on the right wing. So he is an option for Harrison there on the right. But I placed him in the number 10 role because that's also a position that he has played over the years. But I think he will be utilized for both roles. Hasn't made an appearance as of yet, so remains to be seen when he kicks the ball. And then you've got new signing Day as well. He's actually a striker, but he's actually been playing left wing so far for Everton. So yeah, they're weak in the wing areas. Obviously, McNeil and Harrison are good Premier League players, but for me, I feel like you need to have someone else above them. They would, in my opinion, they'd probably be good as like backup players rather than starters. But that is the current situation at Everton. And then you've got Calvert-Lewin and you've got Beto as his backup. Now, in terms of other players, I mentioned Begovic, third choice goalkeeper. They've also got Roman Dixon, who's a right back, plays for under 21s, has made an appearance this season, so we may see more in the course of the months. And then you've got Yusuf Chamiti as well, 20 years of age, and just signed Armando Broja, 23 years of age from Chelsea. So he'd be a good option up top. But I feel like the weakness is actually the wings. And Harrison and McNeil are very similar, left-footed wingers, and they're very direct, very traditional, very old-school style wingers where they attack the byline. I feel like in this modern day, you need wingers that are different. They are more inside forwards. They cut in, they chip in with the goals. These guys are providing the assist. Now, if the strikers aren't on top of their game, then it all goes down the drain. So Everton look weak. Defensively, I think that is where they're probably strong. Other than that, I'm a Liverpool fan, so I couldn't care less. But from a neutral point of view, you'd have to fair Everton's chances this season. You know, they've just about managed to escape relegation last 2-3 years. Last year, they really did well because they had points deducted in terms of breaking the rules for PSR. So yeah, they managed to do really well to stay up, and I think they overachieved, if I'm being honest. So this year, let's see what level they're able to hit, and are they able to survive again in this season. Now, Fulham have definitely been busy in the transfer window. So you've got Leno in goal, and then you've got Wings in the backup. Then in terms of your backline, you've got Robinson and the return of Ryan Sessegnon as well. So he can play left wing if required, but I think he will probably be more of a left back player this season, but obviously would be utilizing both roles. Then you've got Bassi and new signing Cuenca. You've got Diop and Jacob Anderson, who makes his return to Fulham, second time at the club. And then you've got Tete, and then you've got Chestnut as your right back option there. And then in terms of the midfield, you've got Smith Rowe, who I'm expecting big things from this season. Lukic and Andreas Pereira, and then you've got Kearney, Reed, and Sanderberg, who they signed from Burnley. And then up top, you've got Iwobi, you've got Rodrigo Muniz, and you've got Damon Traore. And then they've also signed Reece Nelson on loan, which I think is a good signing. You've got Raul Jimenez and Harry Wilson as well. So decent looking team, I would say. Definitely some interesting players there. They've also got a young talent in Josh King. He's only 17 years of age, but has been registered to play in the squad. So maybe someone that we'll see in the future. Vinicius as well, the striker, as a backup for Muniz, and Raul Jimenez, and you've got Berto as your backup goalkeeper. So I think they've definitely made some good additions with Smith Rowe and Reece Nelson there. I feel like they'll definitely add quality. Sessignon as well. I think having a player that can play left back and left wing will be useful to their campaign this year. So interesting recruiter. Let's see how Fulham do this season. Ipswich Town was certainly busy in this window. Let's have a look at their team. So Muric is a signing that they made from Burnley. He's their number one goalkeeper now. You've got Wharton as backup. Then you've got Twinzabi and Ben Johnson, who they got on a free transfer. Can also play left back, so definitely a good option to have there. Then you've got Wolfden, and they've got O'Shea. O'Shea, I believe they signed from Burnley as well. Greaves, a player they signed from Hull City. Interesting player. Who looks really good, to be fair. Left-footed centre-back. Really good on the ball. So expect big things from him. They paid around 15, 20 million for him as well. So, yeah, definitely someone they rate very highly. And then you've got Burgess, and then you've got Davis and Townsend on the left-back position. And the double pivot, they managed to recruit Karen Phillips. I haven't placed him as the starter because he's just been signed by the club, and I expect him to be eased into the team because you've got the likes of Morsey and Luongo, who have been starters for Ipswich Town, and they have formed a formidable partnership of the year. So I feel like that will be the two players that will start most games. And then you've got Kajust as well, who is a Swedish centre midfielder, who I believe they've signed on loan from Napoli. And then you've got Burns on the right wing. You've got Ogbene, who had a fantastic season for Luton Town last year. He's been signed this summer. You've got Chaplin, Zamodzic as well. And then you've got Omari Hutchison, who makes his move permanent from Chelsea. And you've got Jack Clark, who's a young up-and-coming player, very interesting profile, who they've signed from Sunderland, left-footed player. So, yeah, definitely one to look out for. Really good signing there. And then you've got Liam Delap and Ala Hamadi as well as your strikers. Now, in terms of other squad players, they've got Slicker in goal, Jack Taylor, Nathan Broadhead, and George Hurst, who was prolific for them in their championship campaign. So he's still available for selection. But I think they've signed some interesting players with quality, players that will definitely help the team going forward. And I've also signed players for the future, like a Jack Clark, for example. So they signed experienced players in Calvin Phillips, and also signed the future in Jack Clark. So I like the way they play football as well. So I think they might be able to do well. I won't reveal where I've placed them in the league, but I do feel like they've got a good chance of staying up. So it remains to be seen where I've placed them in the league table. Now the next promoted team is Leicester City. So let's have a look at their team. So they've got Hermansen in goal with Danny Ward as their backup. Then you got Justin and Pereira as your right back options. Faze, Cody, Okoli, and Vestergaard as your centre back options. And Luke Thomas. They don't really have a direct competition for that left position. Obviously, if, for example, Luke Thomas is not available, Justin can definitely play left back. He's played predominantly his career at left back, despite being a right-footed player. Or even Pereira can be a makeshift left back if required. So yeah, that's probably an area that they need to make sure they can strengthen in the next window. It does have an impact on the team if you just have one player for that position, because if he goes, then the whole ship goes down the drain. So yeah, definitely one area I feel like they'll need to strengthen in the coming window. In the double pivot, you've got Oliver Skip and Winks are two former Spurs players back again. So they're there. And then you've got Hamza Chowdhury and Ndidi. Ndidi was available on a free transfer, but I think they've signed him on for another year. So he's still a Leicester City player. And you've got Fatau, who had a great season last year. Bonote and the OZWRLD as well in your left wing position. And then as backup, you've got Mavidi, and you've got El Khanos, and you've got McAtee on the right wing. And up top, you've got Jamie Vardy and Jordan Ayew, the former Palace player, as your two striker options there. But they have some other players that could be interesting selections for the week, sort of summer. So you've got Jacob Selazik, the 23-year-old goalkeeper. You've got Will Alvarez, young player coming through the ranks, 19 years of age. You've got Arjen Reiki as well, Asian player. So, good to see a bit of representation there. Centre midfielder, 21 years of age. So hopefully he gets some first team opportunities. Michael Golding, 18-year-old centre back. So a lot of young players here. But you've got two experienced strikers in Patson Daka and Edouard, who they've got on loan from Palace. So in terms of firepower, they should have enough. Consistency will be the key, and whether they're able to shut up shop defensively, because the left back position for me is a bit of a weak point. Luke Thomas is a good talent, but if he's not available, it's a big task to, switch the team around, and then you're weakening in other areas when players are being switched over to different positions. So definitely an area that needs to be addressed, I would say, in the January window. Now, this would be nice and easy for me, as obviously I'm a Liverpool fan. So Liverpool, in terms of their squad, it looks very strong to me, but let's go through it together. So Alisson, Kelleher as your two goalkeepers. Kelleher's gone out on record to say he wanted to leave the club this summer. I think the club rejected bids. To be fair, I wasn't aware of any bids that were made this year. I know there was interest from certain teams last year, with Forest being strongly linked with the player, but I think they valued him at like 15 million, which is nowhere near what Liverpool value Kelleher. So yeah, interesting to hear his comments. I don't, there's been a sort of mixed reaction on social media. Some fans are a bit annoyed by it. Me personally, I kind of understand his frustration. It's something that we all know. It's not a hidden secret that he wants to leave and be a number one goalkeeper elsewhere, because he thoroughly deserves it. He's a quality goalkeeper. So this will be his last season. We've already signed his replacement in Mamadashvili anyway. So let's see what happens for his future. But for now, he's our number two goalkeeper, and I feel like he's definitely worthy of being in our squad. Fantastic goalkeeper, fantastic shot stopper. In terms of our back four, you've got Robertson, Tsimikas, Van Dijk, Kwanzaa, Joe Gomez, and Konate as your centre back parents. And then you've got Trent Alexander-Arnold and Conor Bradley as your right back option. Some people may not have expected it, but Gravenberch is pretty much a star in this day and age. He will play alongside McAllister in a double pivot. And then you've got Endo and Jones as your backup. Now, that would be the slight concern for me. Endo, for me, is a good player in terms of being a destroyer, but in terms of his technical ability, probably lacks certain areas of his game that I think Arne Slot wants from his number six. So, for example, when he's receiving the ball from the defense, his back is against the opposition. He's not good at the sort of half turn or reading that sort of play, and he tends to get caught out. So Gravenberch does that fantastically. One of his strengths where he just dips the shoulder and then he's past the player. Endo doesn't really have that capability. So if Endo was playing, then you'd lose Gravenberch's sort of athleticism and his neat touches in the middle of the park. So there's a big drop, in my opinion. Endo's still, for me, a solid player to have. I know Arne Slot's not publicly said he's not wanted, but has mentioned, his name a couple of times here and there. But, the window's closed. We've got to utilize what we have. So he's definitely a good player to have in the squad. And these two players will need to be rotated. We can't play Gravenberch week in, week out, otherwise he'll get burnt out. And we have no other options. So expect some rotation. And Endo, for me, is definitely a good player to have in the squad. I just wanted more. I wanted another player to be added to the squad. Well, yeah, that's another discussion for another day, because I've probably been banging on about that all summer anyway. In terms of his partner in the midfield, you've got McAllister and Curtis Jones. For me, Curtis Jones can do this job in a double pivot. Whether he can do it for a run of games or on a consistent basis remains to be seen. But definitely an option there. So I feel like the double pivot is a position where, on paper, it sounds okay. Like it seems fine, but I do feel like we're missing quality there. I feel like we needed one more solid, bona fide number 6 there to add to what we have, and it would really strengthen our challenges for league titles and other cup competitions. But we'll discuss that later in the show. In terms of the advanced three, you've got Mohamed Salah, got new signing Federico Chiesa, and then you've got Luis Diaz on the left, Gakpo as his backup, and you've got Szoboszlai and Harvey Elliott. So no issues there. Real quality up there in terms of our attacking midfield options there. And then up top, you got Diogo Jota and Darwin Núñez. Jota, as fantastic as he is, his only issue is staying fit. So if he remains injury free, we're gonna have a fantastic season. Darwin Núñez, he's definitely a player that splits the fan base. For me, he needs to do a lot more to remain at Liverpool this season. And if he's not able to live up to the bill, I see him leaving the club next summer. But for now, he's definitely an option to have. I see him more of an impact player when everyone's fully fit. And no disrespect to Darwin Núñez, if Diogo Jota was not available, I'd probably consider Chiesa and Gakpo as striker options before I'd consider Darwin Núñez. So Chiesa was playing as a second striker for Juventus last season, so he's more than familiar with that role. I just feel like he's got better end product. So yeah, in terms of this quality of the squad, some may disagree. I actually feel like it's quite strong. In terms of our attacking players, we've got a great balance there. Different players that can play in different positions, but can definitely offer different abilities. For example, Szoboszlai, Elliott, two different types of number 10s, but definitely have an impact in the team. Gravenberch and McAllister, if they stay fit, it'll be fantastic. I know McAllister picked up an injury during international duty, so hopefully it's not a long-term injury. And Jones is not available, so already, we're cutting thin here. In terms of our defense, it's solid. Conor Bradley, fantastic backup right back. Joe Gomez stays. I'm happy about that. I feel like he's a fantastic player and can be utilized in different roles. I feel like the strength is there, and Robertson, Simicast as well. I feel like we've got a very, very strong squad. But yeah, drop a comment. Let me know what you guys think. How strong is this squad for Liverpool? Because there's a lot of noise with regards to us not signing players, and I was definitely one of them. I think we should have signed another centre back, but I think we probably should have signed a number 6. Definitely that should have been priority, but obviously that wasn't to be. But currently, what we have, I feel like we have a very strong squad. Big question will be making sure we stay injury free with a lot of our players, because once we lose a few first team players here, the drop off might not be as big as what we assume, but it's just that continuity and that consistency with these players coming in, because if they're having to play for a long period of spells, are they able to play to the highest standards? It's a big question mark. So remains to be seen. But I do feel like we have a good squad that is ready to challenge for all cup competitions. But if I was Liverpool, I would definitely keep an eye on that January window. I feel like we do need to make a couple of additions. So let's see how that goes. Now, on to Man City, and no surprise, the favourites for the league title. So let's have a look at their squad. So they've got Edison and Ortega in the goalkeeping department. So pretty solid there, of course. Back three, they've got Gvardiol, Diaz, Akanji, and then they've got Ake, Stones, Carl Walker as the backup there. So solid as ever. This was an area I feel like they lacked quality, but they've addressed it. So they've got Rodri and Kovacic, and they've got Rico Lewis, who's done really well this season playing in that number 6 role. And they've got Gundogan, who they've re-signed this summer, and I feel like that's a big signing for them. I really do. And in terms of the advanced four there, you got Savio, aka Savinho, who looks like a Mahrez regen. Got the same shirt number as well. He looks like one hell of a talent. Oscar Bob, he looked impressive as well. Unfortunately, he's out for 4 months, I believe. So He'll be returning next year, but he'll definitely have an impact when he comes back to the team. Then you got Phil Foden, Bernardo Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, and Mateus Nunes, and Doku and Grealish. And this is the area that they didn't address. They sold Julian Alvarez for big money to Atletico Madrid, but they never bought another attacker in. So Erling Haaland is the main striker in this team. Now, the obvious analysis would be if Haaland's injured or if he's not available, this team's going to struggle. Well, yes and no, to be honest, because yes, they will miss the presence of Haaland up top because they don't have another profile of a player that can replicate what he does in the team. However, this is a team that have played with false nines, and Foden's played in that position before, and they've won league titles without a traditional number 9. So when Pep Guardiola is there, he can make things happen. So if he's not around, Foden can come in and play in that position. You can have Doku coming in, being sort of like an attack-minded player. So they'll find a solution. But having said that, they're not the same as Haaland. So Doku hasn't played striker before in his career. Foden can play false 9, but can he play it to the highest standard? I don't think he can. So no, you'd have to say that is the question mark. For Liverpool, I said the defensive midfield position doesn't have the quality, but I feel like for Man City, they don't have the strength in depth in terms of the attacking point of view, the strikers department there. So definitely one to kind of consider. And in terms of their back option, they've got Carson, who's part of the furniture but never really plays. You've got Wilson Esperan as well, left back, 21 years of age, and then you've got James McAtee, who's returned from loan from Sheffield United. So he's a centre mid / number 10 role in the team. So not a striker, but so that would be my thing. If Haaland, picks up an injury and he's out for months and months, City could struggle. But to what level, I don't know. They could maybe just struggle a little bit and then still gain momentum because they've got that much quality in the squad. But this is all if, buts, and maybes right now. But currently, yeah, probably the strongest squad in the Premier League by a mile. Now, Manchester United. Now, on paper, you're probably thinking this is a good team, but remember who the manager is. So, in terms of the goalkeeping department, we've got Onana, who's not the safest pair of hands to say the least, but he's their first choice. And we've got Bain there as well. I'm not too familiar with the Turkish goalkeeper there, but he's their number 2. And then I had to slightly rejig it due to injuries and all that sort of stuff. So I know Martinez has been playing as a centre-back position, but I think with a fully fit squad, he might be utilised more as a left-back. So then you've got Luke Shaw as a backup, only because he's a left-back, but he's out injured. And you've got Malacia as well, who's not available. So left-back was the area I thought they might have strengthened, but it wasn't to be. They've signed De Ligt and Euro. Euro's out for a few months. So right now they've got De Ligt, Maguire, and Johnny Evans. Still can't believe Johnny Evans is there, but it's not my problem. And you got Mazraoui, the new sign, and you got Diogo Dalot, who can play left back. So a versatile player that's effective on both sides of the pitch. And in terms of your double pivot, Casemiro, who obviously had a nightmare against Liverpool, he starts alongside Mainu. And then back up is Ugarte. Ugarte, I do rate as a player. It's remains to be seen in terms of how quickly he settles and hits the ground running in this United team and adjusts to the Premier League, because it's a different level of intensity and play in comparison to Liga. So let's see how he does. But he is a good signing for them. I can't ignore the fact that I do rate the player. And you've got Christian Eriksen there as backup. Then you've got Diallo, Bruno Fernandes, and Rashford. And their backups are Garnacho, Mount, and Anthony. Anthony, for me, poor player. Mount, it's been a bit unlucky with injuries, but a decent player to have good with in terms of pressing for the team. And you've got Garnacho on the left, but can also play on the right. Højlund's currently injured, but on paper, he would start for this team. And then you've got OZZIE'S challenging for that number 9 role. Now, in terms of other players, they don't have too much experience either. So they've got Ethan Wheatley, he's a striker, 18 years of age. Toby Collier, who actually made an appearance against Liverpool the other day, 20 years of age, defensive midfielder. Harry Amas, a left back, 17 years old. Malacio, I mentioned, 25 years old. And you've got Lindelof and you've got Heaton as your centre back and goalkeeper options there. So, in terms of names, if you could, it seems like a good team, but I'm not quite sure of United. I'm not quite sure what you expect from them on a week in, week out basis. Kind of like Jekyll and Hyde. One day they might be great, one day they might be really bad. So that's the team they are right now. So let's see how the season pans out. Can they challenge for top four? I'll reveal it later on in the show. Apologies, I didn't change the graphic after all that. Newcastle. Okay, let's have a look at their squad. So they've got Nick Pope and Dubravka. And then in your defense, they've got Lloyd Kelly, who they've signed from Bournemouth. Left back. Can also play centre back, so a good option there. Got Lewis Hall as his backup. You've got Dan Burn. And Botman. Botman's currently injured, so not available. But on paper, he would be an option for the team. Then you've got Fabian Schär and Kraft. And then you've got Livramento and Trippier in your right back positions. And then your midfield, you've got Bruno Guimaraes. His backup would be Lewis Miley. And then you've got Longstaff and Tonali, who makes his return after his suspension last year. And you've got Joelinton and Willock as well. And then your front three, the player that let me not say all, a player that a lot of Liverpool fans wanted this summer, Anthony Gordon. I never saw the hype, but hey, it is what it is. He's a starter for this team alongside Harvey Barnes as his backup. And you've got Alexander Isaac and Callum Wilson. And you've got Almiron and Jacob Murphy as your options. So after analyzing their squad, I was very surprised to see that they've got a total of 5 goalkeepers. They've got 2 in Pope and Dubravka. They've also got Lachodimos, who is the former Nottingham Forest goalkeeper. You've got John Ruddy, former Norwich keeper, and you've got Gillespie as well. So, yeah, I know they've had injuries with goalkeepers, but yeah, 5 seems a bit excessive. And Loris Karius was there, and unfortunately, he's no longer at the club. But yeah, interesting to see how many goalkeepers that they have in their squad. Jamal Lascelles, an experienced centre back, he's an option for them. You've got Matt Target, left back. Alex Murphy, a young player, left back as well. Isaac Hayden, he could come in as a defensive midfield option for Guimaraes, I guess. And you got Goran Kowal, a left winger from Australia. And you've got William Asula, who they signed last season, 21 years of age, Danish striker, has been likened to Haaland in terms of style of play. So remains to see how well he adapts to the Premier League. Big comparison there, but we'll see how it goes. But I'd say interesting squad. I wouldn't say it's very strong. A lot of fans have said, Newcastle will be challenging for European positions because they don't have any European football. I'm not quite so sure. I think they'll definitely be in the top half. Just remains to be seen in terms of whereabouts. But all will be revealed later in the show. Now, the next team, Nottingham Forest. So, I'm not sure why I've only got one goalkeeper on the screen, but I've got Sells in goal. And in terms of the back four, you've got Ola Aina, and you've got Alex Moreno, who they've signed from Aston Villa. Murillo and Morato, the Spanish centre-back, I believe he is. And you've got Mikalenko and Bolly. And you've got Nico Williams and Obamadeli as well as your right-back option. He traditionally plays centre-back, but can play right-back as well. Then you've got Elliot Henderson and Sangare in the double pivot. Dominguez and Yates as their backups. You've got Langa, Gibbs White, and Hudson Odoi. And then you've got new signing Ward Prowse as a backup for Gibbs White, I would say. And you've got Jota Silva on the right and Sosa on the left. And then up top, you've got Chris Wood and Owani as well. And to the other players in the squad, they've got Toffolo, who's a left back for the team. You've got Zach Abo, 19-year-old centre-back. Danilo, 23-year-old centre mid, unfortunately picked up a brutal injury in the opening games of the season. I'm not sure what they're saying. I think it was a leg break, so he could be out for months, but hopefully he makes a speedy recovery because it was not a nice challenge to witness. So he's out for a number of months. Otherwise, he'd probably be a star in this team, if I'm being honest. But due to his current situation, I've placed him as a squad player. Then you've also got Ben Perry, and then you've got Eric da Silva Moreira, who is a right winger, 18 years of age. So a lot of young players in terms of backup. So like other teams, they all need to make sure the first 22 stay fit and ready throughout the season. Now, in terms of the next team, Southampton now. So far this season, they've been playing 3-5-2, which surprised me a little bit because the profile players that they have, they're more suitable to a 4-3-3 or maybe, yeah, I say 4-3-3 because they've got a lot of wingers in their team. So some of the players I'm going to mention have to adapt their position slightly. So I'll explain in a bit more detail. So in terms of the goalkeeper position, they've got Ramsdale and McCarthy. Back three, they've got Stephens, Charlie Taylor as his backup, Bednarek, and then you've got Edwards as his backup, and then Howard, and you've got Wood as his backup as well. Kyle Walker-Peters playing further up as a left midfielder in this 3-5-2 formation. His backup is Idoze, who is an out-and-out left winger. So this role, he could do a job, but he's probably more attack-minded, so he should probably play a bit more further up. But due to his formation, I think that he could be a backup for Carl Walker-Peters, sorry. And you've got Aribo and Mateus Fernandez. You've got Downs and Ugo Chokwa as well. You've got Smallbone and Adam Lallana, who makes his return to Southampton. And you've got Sugawara, a new signing from AZ Alkmaar at right mid/wing back, however you want to phrase it. And you've got Dibbling as well. He's actually a right winger, but he's having to adjust to fit this formation. And up top, you've got Burton Diaz and Armstrong, and you've got Archer, and you've got Amel and Mayo as well. Now, in terms of other squad players in the Southampton team, they've got a lot. They're a bit like Chelsea. They've got a lot of players in the back. Will they be useful to the campaign? Remains to be seen. They've got two goalkeepers in Buzunu and Lumley, but I believe Buzunu's out injured, so it doesn't really count at this stage. You've got Ryan Manning, left back. You've got Jason Bree, who can also play right back. Juan Larios as well, left back. Akachuku as well, 18 years old. I think I've actually got him in my... Yeah, I've got him there as well. So he's an attacking midfielder, so I'm not sure where he'd fit in this team. Probably more of a attacking position in that front two, because a number 10 doesn't fit this formation. You've got Joseph O'Brien Whitmarsh, centre mid. Ryan Fraser, who we all know from Bournemouth, 30 years of age. Another option for left wing, but does that left wing mean... I think for him, due to probably his age and speed, he'll probably play into that Carl Walker-Peters position. And then you've got Silimana, who probably for me play a more further up top. Maxwell Cornet, another option up top. Really surprised they're playing with two strikers. I would have expected the manager to play with three attackers because they've got a lot of attackers in the squad. But maybe something he will adapt as the season goes on. They've got Ross Stewart, 28 years of age, striker. Onachu, another striker. And they've got Jay Robinson, who's a young up-and-coming striker, 17 years of age. So, yeah, this team seems a bit mixed match to me. Doesn't seem like there's a clear direction. So not been impressed with how they perform so far. Let's see if they're able to improve. But no, not been impressed. And I'm not sure there's a right balance in this team. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes for Southampton this season. Now, one of the challenges for top four is Tottenham Hotspurs. Now, in terms of their team, they've got Vicario, who had a fantastic debut season last year. You've also got Foster as his backup. And then in terms of the back four, you've got Udogie. Reguilon returns to Spurs. Whether he gets any game time remains to be seen. But on paper, he's the left back position there. You've got Van der Ven and Ben Davies as his backup. You've got Romero and Dragusin as his backup. And you've got Pedro Porro. And good to see Spence back into the Tottenham fold as well. I think he's already made a few appearances, so good to see him back. Very highly rated fullback. Signed for Tottenham Hotspur under Conte. I don't think Conte actually wanted him. He's been loaned out to teams across Europe. Never really found his place anywhere. Has returned to Tottenham, and hopefully, he can hit the ground running because I feel like he's a great talent. So, yeah, interesting to see how he does this season. In terms of the midfield, they've got Bissouma. His backup is Bentancur. You got Papa Sarr. Their backup will be the new signing Archie Gray, who looks a very interesting profile. And they've got Madison. And his backup is Bergvall as well, another up-and-coming midfielder from Sweden. And then speaking of Sweden, you've got Kulusevski in your right wing position, with Brennan Johnson challenging for that right wing. Got Son occupying that left wing position, and they've signed OZWRLD, who I feel like is a very smart signing, can play left or right, very tricky on the ball, good turn of speed as well. Definitely one of the standout players for me last season for Burnley. So it was very smart signing there. And they've got Solanke, who can definitely lead the line, be that prolific striker that they've been wanting since the departure of Harry Kane. And they've also got Richarlison as a backup. So that is the first 22. Now, in terms of other players behind there, not many options. You've got a couple goalkeepers in Austin and Whiteman. And then you've got Timo Werner, who will probably challenge one of the attacking positions in the front line. But I feel like they've got enough quality to challenge for top four. Whether they make it remains to be seen. All will be revealed later in the show. And then we've got West Ham. Now, they were certainly kept busy in this window, that's for sure. In terms of the goalkeeping position, they've got Areola, for me, fantastic shotstopper. I really like him. You've got Fabianski as his backup. And in terms of the defense, a lot of new faces there. So, got to take that in consideration in terms of, players getting used to each other and forming a chemistry and understanding on the pitch. You've got Kilman, who they signed from Wolves. Todibo, very highly rated centre-back. They've done really well to sign him, to be fair. He would be alongside Kilman. So they form a good partnership, but it will take time for that to form. And they've got Wan-Bissaka on the right with Kofal. So good, solid right backs on that side. They've got Emerson and Cresswell, two players that have been at the club for a while now. Then you've got Alvarez and Rodriguez as your two number sixes. And then your midfield four there. It looks interesting. They've got Jared Bowen, and they've got an up-and-coming player from Palmeiras in Guilherme, who is a right winger, looks really good on the ball. Suchek, and his backup is Carlos Soler, who they signed for PSG. So might not be a backup man, not being a starter for this team, because he's definitely a good talent. Lucas Paqueta, his backup was Ward-Prowse, but they've loaned him out to Nottingham Forest. So let's see how that spell goes for him. And you've got Mohamed Kudus playing on the left. I prefer him on the right, to be fair, but I think to fit all of these players in the team, someone has to adjust. And unfortunately, that is for Mohamed Kudus. And then you've got Somerville, an interesting signing from Leeds United there. And then you've got Fulkrug, the German international, and then you've got Antonio as his backup. So a team here with a lot of quality, even as they're sort of like their second choice players. I feel like it's a team with a lot of experience, a lot of quality. I feel like they will surprise a lot of teams this year, in my opinion. In terms of their sort of backups, they've got Fodringham, who they signed in the summer as a third choice keeper, and they've got Danny Ings as well. So he'll definitely get some game time this season. So yeah, it looks a strong squad, to be fair, on paper. Let's see how it is in reality. And the final team that we will cover is Wolves. And let's have a look at their team. So Hollister remains number one for now, but he will be challenged by Sam Johnston, who has just been signed for £10 million from Crystal Palace. In terms of the back four, Wolves have done well for me to keep Anuri, who was linked with a number of clubs in the summer. His backup would be Embueno on paper. You got Totti Gomez, who can also play left back, but in this position will play in a centre back role alongside Mosquera. Their backup options are Dawson and Mulpio, who's a young French centre back that they've signed, and you've got Matt Doherty and Nelson Semedo on the right. And your double pivot, you've got João Gomez and Lamina, and they've just made a new signing in Andre, who was linked with Liverpool last year. So we're interested to see how he settles in the Premier League. And then we've got Doyle. And then in terms of your front, or should I say advanced three, you've got Wang Hee-chan, Mateus Cunha, and Bellegarde. And their backups are Rodrigo Gomez, Podence, and Pablo Sarabia. And then up top, we've got new signing in Larson, who's looked decent, to be fair. Looks an interesting player. And you've got Kalajic as well. So good squad defensively. I think they've got good options. Even the double pivot, they've got good mobile players there. Wang Hee-chan, Mateus Cunha, very impressive how they perform. Bellegarde has a shot on him as well. Larson looks good. I'll probably say Kalajic would be a player that would be good to come off the bench, but maybe they need another striker to add more firepower to the squad. In terms of options, they don't really have a striker in the back, so they've got Carlos Forbes is a left winger, 20 years of age. Enzo Gonzalez, another left winger, 19 years of age. Luke Rawlings, who's 16 years old and plays for under 18, so very young player to register in your squad, so he could be one to look out for. Boubacar Traore, CDM, and you've got Pedro Lima, a Brazilian right back, 18 years of age, so he'll be an interesting one to see in the future. And you've got Bentley and King as your goalkeeping options. So not a lot of striking options there, so that would be a position I think they might want to address in the January window. But overall, still a decent outfit, and I still feel like a team that could survive and that could do well in the Premier League campaign this season. So that is my my analysis of each squad in the Premier League. So yeah, before I do the next stage, just go through some of the comments here. Got a comment here from Philip. He said, big up Philip. Thank you for your comment. Thank you for tuning in. Daz, big up Daz always says, Ozzy, would you make changes on Saturday? I'll be doing a match preview on Thursday night, so I'll speak in more detail. But it will depend on who's available, because I think McAllister may be injured, so you'd have to replace him. I'm not sure if Curtis Jones is available. If he is, then I'd place him in the lineup. If not, it'll probably be Endo and Gravenberch as a double pivot. But in terms of personnel or players in form, I wouldn't change anything right now. I'll keep it as it is. But, we're on Tuesday right now. In a few days' time, things can change. So I might have a different outcome because of, injuries or availability and all that sort of stuff. So let's just pray that, the players return injury-free, and then hopefully we can analyze the squad in our match preview this week. You've got Jay Kisman says, bless up, bro. Big up yourself. You never walk alone. And then Daz is always in the chat saying bless up to Jay Kisman, and then returning the favor there as well. So what we'll do now is we will go through my prediction in terms of individual awards, and then at the end I'll present my Premier League table, and then let me know what you think in the comments. Even if you're watching this on replay, drop a comment and let me know what you think. And let me know what you would do in terms of selections. You can tell me your Premier League table. You can even tell me your individual awards or just your opinion on the show altogether. Appreciate your interaction as always, guys. So let's start with Premier League predictions. So this is it, guys. This is my Premier League prediction. So I believe City will go on and win the title. No huge surprises there. Surprise may be who's I've placed in second, third, and fourth. Pre-season predictions, I placed Liverpool in third position. And I'm not just placing Liverpool in second because Chiesa is signed, and our front line is untouchable right now. I've been very impressed in terms of what Arne Slot has brought to the table in terms of his coaching philosophy and the manner of how we're playing as well. We haven't conceded a goal, and I'm not saying we won't, but we look very, very strong defensively. Be very hard for anything to break us down. So that's what's really impressive. But at the same time, we haven't lost that attacking element where we're counter pressing and we're very aggressive in the front foot. So look, I'm enjoying this new type of football. Some fans aren't quite there. They're used to that heavy metal football. I'm enjoying the way Liverpool are playing right now. So for me, I think we might just miss out just due to our lack of strength and depth in midfield. That's my only concern. If we're able to address that in January and we're still first, second, or third and still challenging and not far off the top spot, then my mind can change. But as of now, this is what I feel like. I feel like Liverpool just probably don't have enough to leap over City and become champions. But I think we'll be the team that will really take them to the wire. The reason I've got Arsenal in third, I don't think they have the strength in depth, to be honest with you. The midfield for me looks very slim because now you've got 2-3 players out and we're in match week 4. That's coming up now. So match week 3, match week 4. Match week 4, isn't it? Yeah. It's all a bit of a daze now. So yeah, it's a concern. You have to say it's a concern because you have to then look at your reserve players where they're 18, 19, 20 years old. You can't just throw them in because they're not ready. They haven't been embedded into the first team. So no, for me, I feel like very surprised that they haven't recruited in that midfield position. Yes, I know they signed Marino, but was that enough? I don't think it was. So yeah, I don't think they have the strength in depth for me to go all the way. I feel like Liverpool have more firepower. I think Arsenal would probably rival our firepower, but I don't think they will beat us just through the middle. And obviously, another big point and an obvious one is that they never addressed their striking position. They never went on to buy an out-and-out striker, which is what they lacked last season. So I don't think they've actually strengthened that much. I know they've signed Calafiori, who's a player I really wanted at Liverpool, but he wasn't really a player they needed, in my opinion. I think Liverpool really needed a player like that. Arsenal, they've got too many left-footed players there. It wasn't really a position they need to strengthen. They've got Gabriel there, so yeah, I'm surprised he went there, but maybe Liverpool didn't show enough interest to sign him. So in terms of my 4th place there, I've gone for Spurs. I think the brand of football that they're playing, I feel like it's going to really appease the fan, but I feel like they're more experienced now under Big Ange, so I feel like things might start to click this season. I feel like they've recruited really well. OZWRLD is a very interesting signing. They've got Werner on a loan for another year. So yeah, I've been really, really impressed. Obviously, you've got Son, you've got Solanke. I feel like this is a time for him to really flourish. He had a great season last year, scoring 19 goals. So he's going to try and make it at least 20 this season. And with the supply that he's got in this quality team, I feel like he'll do well. So no, I've gone for Spurs. Drop a comment, let me know what you guys think. Got a few comments here from Jay Kismet. He says Liverpool champions. He says number 1, and he says Arsenal third. So interesting. You haven't said who's second, but obviously I'm assuming it's Man City. And you've gone for Brighton as 4, which I can't really say that's a wild shot. I think that's a fair assessment as well. Team I definitely consider that top 4, but after analysing the squad, I just felt like Tottenham Hotspur might just have a bit of an edge on them. But I'll reveal the final table very shortly. Now, in terms of the relegation, I'm not doing this because I'm a Liverpool fan. I just looked at Everton's squad and I feel like it's really, really below standard. I don't know where the goals are going to come from. I don't even know where the service is going to come from because they're heavily relying on Harrison and McNeil. If one of those 2 players were out, they don't actually have backup wingers in that team. So they'll have to do makeshift players where Ndai, who's playing left wing right now, he's actually a striker. And you've got Lindstrom, who will end up playing on the right if required. But they're not out-and-out wingers. So I think this season will be a bit too much for them to secure Premier League status. But yeah, you guys can let me know in the comments. Leicester City, I feel like they'll be one of the teams that fall through. I actually had Ipswich Town in my pre-season prediction, but I've been very impressed in terms of how they play football. And, maybe I think their recruitment was good as well. They signed a lot of players. So I feel like maybe that will just about help them escape that relegation zone. So I've taken Ipswich out of this equation. I've put in Leicester City. Well, actually, I had Leicester City at 20th, so I've actually moved them up because I've gone for Southampton in 20th position. I don't think they have the right quality or the right system in place to really have an impact. I think it's a bit all over the place right now. The manager needs to have a clear vision of what he wants from his players because the 3-5-2 formation that they have right now, it doesn't fit the player that they have in the squad. They really need to switch it up and make a formation tailored to the skill set that they have in the squad. Because you've got wingers playing as wing backs, and it's not going to work. So something that needs to be addressed in the coming weeks. Surprise package, I've gone for West Ham. It could have been a lot of teams. It could have been Brighton. Brighton will definitely close for me in this one. West Ham, because I think they've recruited some very interesting players there. And I feel like they're going to surprise teams. You know, they're going to be very hard to break down defensively, but I think from an attacking point of view, with the pace and power that they have, they're going to cause a lot of teams trouble. So that's why I've gone for West Ham as my surprise package of the season. Underachievers, initially I had it for Chelsea, but I've gone for Aston Villa in the end due to the fact that I don't think they have a big squad to challenge for all titles or all competitions. And with the extra fixtures embedded in the new Champions League format, I think that's going to really hamper the team with possible injuries and fatigue and players being burnt out. So I feel like it's going to impact their season. So I think they might drop off this season, but that's just my my thoughts there. Now, in terms of players want to watch, this is the player I mentioned in my previous prediction. Yankuba Minta, for me, looks a really good talent. There's other players that definitely deserve a shout. Savinho for City, he looks like a great talent as well. Amad Diallo for United, he looks like an interesting player. So there's quite a few, but I think Minte, for me, definitely stands out in terms of the up and coming or someone that we're not too familiar with, but will make a big impression this season. Just going to go through a couple of comments here. Dick Kisman says Everton, Ipswich, and Southampton. Yeah, I had Ipswich originally, but yeah, I see your understanding there. And this is agreed, both. So I'm basing that on my one to watch for Jacob Minte there. Player of the season, look, no biasness involved here. I think Mo Salah is going to cook this season. I think he's going to have a big impact for Liverpool as a goal scorer, but more as a playmaker. I feel like we're going to see a different version of Mohamed Salah. You know, the Afro's gone now, so you're going to see a new type of player. And I can see in just the way he's played under Arne Slot, where he's taken up similar positions, but he's been very calculated in his final passing. And I feel like with this a bit more calm and composed approach of playing, I feel like it's going to suit his game even more. So I think he's going to have a fantastic season, hitting high numbers like he has been doing for the last 7-8 years. So I think he'll continue this season onwards. So I'm going for Mohamed Salah as my player of the season. Young player of the season, I'm going for Savinho. I've been very, very impressed with his initial cameos so far. Looks to have been embedded into his team very promptly. Provided a couple of assists not so long ago. I think he was injured, but he's back, or should be back in contention next week or so. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier in the show, like a Mara's regen to me. He just has that ability on the ball, drives with the ball with ease and class, and he's got good end product. So I feel like he's going to be fantastic. 20 years of age, that's why I've gone for the young player of the season. I think he's definitely going to have a huge impact for City. And if it's based on my prediction of them winning the champions, I think he's going to play a big role for the City team. So that's why I've gone for Savinho. Top scorer, no huge surprises. Erling Haaland, complete goal machine. Salah will probably be close to him if I'm being honest, but other than that, I don't really see anyone else challenging him. So easy one with that. Top playmaker, I'm going for Odegaard. I think he's going to provide a lot of assists for Arsenal, but I just feel like they're going to fall short later in the season. Man of the season, if it's based on my prediction, is because his team manages to win 5 titles in a row, which will be absolutely crazy. So with that kind of achievement, if that was to happen, then obviously he deserves it. But obviously I'm hoping for Liverpool to win the title, even though I'm predicting City. Sign of the season, this might raise a few eyebrows. Why have I gone for Emil Smith-Rowe? I'm not going just because of the reason I picked him is not because I've disregarded other signings. Other signings are probably better players and bigger fees and all that stuff. For me, I've gone on the basis that I think Smith-Rowe will have a big impact for the team that he's joined. So for Fulham, I think he's going to really help their team. I feel like he's going to vitalize his own career because he's been stalemate at his previous club where he was on the fringes. He didn't really get any game time. Under Marco Silva, I feel like he's going to play free flowing football. He's going to rediscover himself. And I can see him being back in that England fold again. I really do. I feel like he's definitely going to flourish. Playing for a club where there isn't a huge pressure for him to deliver in terms of, achieving heights and attaining European football. It's just produce your best football and help the team out. And I feel like he's really going to flourish in that kind of environment. So I think he's going to have the most impact out of all the new signings this summer. A couple of honourable mentions I had Calafiori, but he doesn't look like he's even kicked the ball. He's injured again, actually. So another player that's out. And Chiesa, but I haven't seen him kick a ball yet. On paper, he seems like signing of the season based on value and profile, all that sort of stuff. But too early for me to make that kind of prediction right now. So yeah, there's a few players. Pedro Neto as well. I feel like if he stays injury free, he'll be a fantastic signing for Chelsea as well. So a lot of players, but I feel like I've gone for Smith Rowe in terms of the team that he's joined, and I feel like he'll really help galvanize this team going forward. So that's my selection there. Might be a surprise for some, man. It's not throwing shade because he's a United player. I think flop of the season could be Lenny Euro. And the only reason is because his price tag was very high. And that basically equals high expectations. And I feel like he's a player that is full of potential. I'm not going to throw shade saying he's a terrible player because Liverpool didn't get him. Not that type of person. I feel like if he joined a club like Liverpool, the fans wouldn't be, on his case to, deliver right away. We'd understand that he's a young player. He's going to take time to settle. At United, the culture is a bit different. I feel like the fans are expecting him to be like a prime Van Dijk or be like an impactful player like Saliba has for Arsenal and hit the ground running straight away. I know he's out for 2-3 months, so that doesn't help. But I feel like it's going to be a season where we might not see the best of Euro. If you say that United next season, that might be the time where we'll be like, you know what? He's showing the reason why United splashed out 60 million. But for this current season, I don't think he's going to deliver. And I think some fans might even turn on him. That's just my kind of viewing on that. So drop a comment. Let me know what you guys think in terms of the flop of the season. Slightly debatable one, but hey, that's what we're here for sometimes. Now, before we conclude the show, this is what you guys have been waiting for, I guess, to see my Premier League table prediction. So here we go. So we all know the top four. So it's City, number 1, Liverpool, number 2, Arsenal in 3rd, and Spurs in 4th place. I've gone for Chelsea in 5th place. I think with the attacking signs that they have, I feel like they can definitely. I feel like Sancho might actually be a really good signing for him. I know a lot of people don't have high hopes of that. I feel like he can really blossom. I don't know why. It's just a gut feeling. I feel like he might suit the way that they play, and I feel like he'll be a bit more efficient in front of goal, playing the way Maresca likes to play. So let's see. But I think they'll be up there. I've gone for United 6. I think they won't be challenging high up in terms of the top 4, but I think they'll drop around that sort of that position. I've gone for West Ham. I was debating between West Ham and Brighton for that Europa Conference League position. I've gone for West Ham just because I feel like they've got more quality in that squad. Brighton do have it. I think they have it more in numbers, but I think in terms of quality, West Ham have it slight edge, in my opinion. And then I'll go for Brighton 8th. As I mentioned, I think Villa are going to drop. That's why I've labelled them as underachievers, and then I've gone for 9th for Villa. Newcastle in 10th place, Crystal Palace in 11th, Fulham in 12th, Bournemouth 13th, Brentford 14th. I think the impact of losing Tony will have a bit of toll on this team. So that's why I feel like they would have dropped in the league table. Wolves in 5th place, Nottingham Forest 16th. Ipswich just about scraping through in 17th place. And then I've gone for Everton, Leicester City, and Southampton as my relegated teams, unfortunately. So that is the final prediction of the Premier League table from Football Talk Podcast. So drop a comment, let me know what you guys think. And that is it for today, guys. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to Philip, Daz, and Jay Kismet for your comments and for tuning in. Appreciate your time as always and your engagement. Jay Kismet just sent me a comment here. He's saying proper season, Chelsea manager. I actually said on one of my shows that I think he'll be the first one sacked. So yeah, you're probably right on that one. And then Daz always said top scorer for me, Mo. So he thinks Mohamed Salah will be top scorer. I definitely think he'll be challenging for Haaland, but Haaland just seems to be scoring at a crazy rate. You know, he's scored 2 back-to-back hat-tricks. Not saying he's going to keep doing that, but he's more than capable of doing more hat-tricks than most players in this league. So, yeah, I just feel like he's a cut above the rest in the league in terms of goal scoring form, but we'll see how it goes. But that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. In terms of upcoming content, I'll be doing a match preview of Liverpool versus Nottingham Forest. The schedule is to do it on Thursday, but I'm not 100% sure. It could be Friday. So best thing to do is hit that notification bell. You'll be notified of once I've uploaded the stream and then what time I'll be going live. Also follow me on social media for all the latest updates. You can follow me at Aussie.ftp on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. So yes, that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care, stay safe, and I hope to speak to you all very, very soon. Goodbye.